You guys, we just saw Shelby and Omar did a really cool demonstration of their EMT paramedic skills.
Thank you. That's pretty great.
Yeah.
Well, on behalf of Reynolds Community College, I'd like to welcome you, Secretary Cardona, Senator Kane, and we have with us as well the former Virginia Secretary of Education and currently teaching public policy at GMU, Ann Holton. Thank you so much for coming to visit us at Reynolds. I'm bringing you greetings from Dr. Paula Panda, who's actually in New York City at the American Association of Community Colleges, and we'll actually be hearing from the Undersecretary today. So she regrets that she was not able to join us due to a technology issue, but she sends her greetings and is so grateful you're here. So, and we'll go around and do introductions in just a moment, but to give you a sense, you are at our downtown campus of Reynolds Community College. We have 4 campuses. Downtown, we have one in Parham Road in Henrico County, Goochland, which is a more rural campus, and then just recently we opened the Kitchens at Reynolds, which is on the east end of Richmond as well. We serve between our Reynolds Community College and our workforce development arm about 13,000 students a year. And I'm very excited to show you not just the simulations that you saw today, but to talk to you a little bit about what's happening actually starting probably as early as next week at this very campus. We have placed an incredibly strong emphasis on workforce development and ensuring that we are bringing the skills and talent to the workforce pipeline in Richmond. And doing that effectively requires a number of different things. One is to boast contemporary programs. And in order to do that, we are investing mightily in this campus in the coming months on a number of renovations. And you can see some renderings from what will be here if you hopefully come back to visit us in a couple of months. You can see over there on the right, we will be revamping our nursing labs in simulation. We're actually really excited. We'll be the first in the state to have the Garamond adult simulation. So much like what you saw today, providing that simulated experience for students to practice in a safe environment and then go out into their internships, the clinicals, more seasoned, not just in the theoretical, but in the practical. The second one there, you see, we're actually developing a full OR so that we can offer a surgical technician program, which
That's
is
this one here?
Yeah, the second one with the green at the top. So we'll have a full operating room, scrub room, the whole thing for our surgical technician students. We are building out that program in the coming year in response to a tremendous demand regionally and nationally. These last two here, our lower level of the building is going to be converted to focus on industrial trades, where we know we can move a significant amount of Richmonders into family sustaining wages through the industrial trades, and those will be run both through the Community College Workforce Alliance, which is our shared workforce arm between Reynolds Community College and Bright Point Community College. And so they'll take the lead in some of those classes as well. And then over here, and if you were to actually look beyond the rendering to those frosted windows over there, in a couple months, that space will be transformed into a cybersecurity tech hub. And so we're training the latest and greatest for our IT students behind there. And then this last rendering is a new space we're putting into the 6th floor of this building. That's an interdisciplinary human and physiology lab, where we will not only have something called animatage tables, where you can electronically touch and see and experience the cardiovascular system to whatever of different types of humans, or I believe animals even. And then we will also have synthetic cadavers called syndavers in that room as well, that look, feel, operate just as a cadaver does, but have a much longer shelf life for students. So they will be able, from our biology and anatomy students to our nursing students, respiratory therapy, it will be a shared environment, just like the workforce is, for them to work in that interdisciplinary environment. So we're so excited about what's coming, and we hope you'll come back and see these spaces live. And then I will turn it to you, Senator Kane, to just take it away.
Well, let me just do the introduction, because the reason that we're all here together is we're just graced to have Secretary Cardona come and be part of it. Secretary Cardona is an educator who was educated at a technical high school in Connecticut where he grew up, then college and higher ed, then a teacher, then a principal, then a superintendent, and then a state superintendent. When President Biden asked him to become U.S. Secretary of Education, he had been an educator at every level in the K-12 space. And one of the reasons, and I'm on the Health, Education, Labor, Pension Committee, so I got to meet Secretary Cardona when he came before our committee for his confirmation. And one of the reasons I'm so thrilled to work with him, and there are many, is that he's been a real champion because of his own background for career and technical education. I'm the son of an iron worker, and I ran a school that taught kids to be carpenters and welders in Honduras, and I've really focused on broadening our understanding of what higher education is to include career and technical education. Have a bill, the Jobs Act, that we're working on now to expand the use of Pell Grants so that Pell Grants can be used for high quality career and technical education. And Secretary Cardona is doing a really good job. And obviously the last thing I'll say, and then he'll take it away and then we'll have a good discussion, is to be an educator, to be a student, to be an education secretary at this time when we've gone through COVID and programs had to change and go from in-person to online or hybrid, and people were home struggling because maybe childcare was closed and made it more difficult for them to access higher ed. Some had lost jobs, made it more difficult. It's been a particularly challenging time. COVID isn't yet in the rear view, but we can kind of see ourselves moving through and moving out of it and life being a little more normal. But that means there's a lot of recovery to do all across the board, including in education. And we've got a leader in Secretary Cardona who is helping us do just that, build the ladder up for students and all of our educators. So, Secretary, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation. I'm glad to be here with you and with Ann, and to see programs that I get excited because I want to see this across the country. Thank you for the explanation. On a little side note, Dr. Pando, we weren't able to connect, but thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure plan, we're working on that. We know there were some technology issues, maybe some broadband issues, but look, we have an opportunity to elevate education, to make sure that we're providing students across the country access and opportunity. Community colleges like this one, Reynolds is really economic development for the community. I think people need to understand that. Sometimes we're not as bold about saying that. This community's economic stability is better because of this college. Imagine the headlines if without the American Rescue Plan, you didn't have the funds to keep students here. What would that do for the economy? So it's all connected. Programs like what you described, I'm excited about what's coming too. And I love your enthusiasm for it because it shows you see the importance of providing not only education, but job opportunities for students. What we're going to try to do at the department, not what we're going to try to do, what we are going to do is prioritize career connectedness, understanding the regional needs of the community and making sure that our high schools and our 2-year schools and our 4-year schools are better aligned to what those needs are so that our students have opportunity after graduation. We talk a lot about loan debt and just how it's weighing folks down. Well, let's fix that by getting them jobs that they get good money and the jobs that are available. And let's make sure we're providing pathways that lead to jobs today. And you've done that really well. I saw the 2 programs over there, and I was telling Omar and Shelby, in that simulation room, like, I get to see what you're learning, and I know how well prepared you are based on the technology that they're using here. Glad to hear that you're going to have an OR space. The students here are getting a top-notch education, great experiences that's going to lead to employment. As Secretary of Education, I'm going to push hard for programs like this to be not the exception, but the norm across the country. And the goal of this conversation today is really for me to hear from you directly, whether you work here or your students or participants in the program. Because when I go back, and it's not that far, sometimes I'm in different parts of the country, I'm like, when I fly back to DC, when I drive back to DC to my office, I need your words to drive my policy decisions. I need your experiences, your concerns, your fears, your wishes to drive my policy decisions. That's what the goal of this is. So for a moment, forget that there are cameras and everyone watching. I really want to leave with what's working, what needs work, so that I could make sure when I go back, I serve people like you that are taking advantage of a great program. So that's kind of like the framework of the conversation that I want to have. And I want to make sure that you just feel comfortable telling me your story and telling me what works. Community colleges is really, at Reynolds, what you're doing here is really economic development. And we need to do more with that. The president did propose $200 million in the budget, not ARP, in the regular budget for career-connected learning. So he gets it. Thankfully, we have leaders like Senator Kane over here who get it and are pushing for it. So we need to make sure we're aligned and we're pushing the right way at the Department of Education, and you're gonna help me get there, okay? With that, I'm gonna just kind of ask, did you wanna say a few remarks too? Because you have great experience in education and you know the benefits of it. So before I open it up.
Well, I'll just say thank you for being here. We're
Yeah.
just thrilled to have you, and Reynolds is doing such great work, so it's fun to show it off, but also to hear, what's working and what are the challenges. And I love your career connectedness phrasing. That, I work a lot, as you obviously have, in the K-12 space, and so thinking about how we connect K-12 to higher ed, and the community colleges are such a central role in that. So I'm
They
looking
are.
forward to hearing from everybody here.
They are, and I appreciate you bringing that up. We got to blur the lines between good career-connected high school programs, 2-year schools, 4-year schools, and workforce partners. All right, so let's get into it. I want to know a little bit. First of all, let's go around. Tell me who you are, what you do here, what you study, and maybe why you chose it. That's really, for me, it's really important to know why you chose it. I'd like to start with you, Cheryl, and then we'll work our way around these.
Great. Thank you and welcome to Richmond.
Thank you.
I'm Cheryl Garland. I'm the Chief of Health Impact at Virginia Commonwealth University Health System. And while I'm not a student, I'm here as a partner of Reynolds, one of the business partners that Reynolds Community College has engaged in developing the pipeline models. And I am very excited because VCU Health System has been engaged in the development of a workforce development initiative called Health Careers Pathways, where we partner with both Reynolds and Community College Workforce Alliance to engage participants and students so that they can come to work for our health system.
I love it. So your fingerprints are on the plans to develop it so that you could be the beneficiary of them as employees. I love it.
Yes.
It's a good model. Hi, Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy Taloma. I'm actually the healthcare program coordinator for the Community College Workforce Alliance here, and I help develop the certification programs that are much in demand in this region, so that we can help our partners out, such as
That's
VCU
great.
Health and our other health system partners.
That's a critical, so you help connect the dots.
Yes, provide education.
Are there Amy Talomas at every community college across the country?
Yes.
There are.
Well, I don't know about
Not as good.
in the state, we do. Yeah.
Yeah, good, good. All right, thank you, Amy. Hi.
Hello. Well, to all of you, my name is Omar Serrano. I am an international student here at Reynolds Community College, and I'm representing the paramedic program here at Reynolds. I'm currently a volunteer at Manchester Volunteer Rescue Squad, and I also volunteer at St. Francis Medical Center. My plans at this time is to go to VCU and get my bachelor's degree and for my pre-medical track, and hopefully then going to medical school.
That's great. Well, thanks for being on the panel here.
Thank you.
Hi, Rachel.
Hello, my name is Rachel Mcclellan. I am a certified medical assistant at VCU, and I'm very excited for the opportunity to be able to have gone to school. I put it off for years because it was never right, never could afford it, always dragged my feet, and with COVID, I realized that the opportunity, I didn't want to help people the way I was previously, former bartender. So it was time to switch it up and step into a new field where I've got so much to learn, and I'm so excited about it.
You find your purpose, your passion, right? That's awesome.
So during COVID, you came to Jay Sargent?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Hi, Shelby.
Hi, my name is Shelby Gettings. I am both a student and a member of the faculty here at Reynolds. I am in my third semester for the paramedic program, as well as being a lab instructor for the EMT students. So I really get to play with both sides. I'm also a volunteer at Tuckahoe Rescue Squad and also a waitress, just to switch it up, But I really love the program here at Reynolds. It's nice to see all of the students come through and making more EMTs every semester. And it's just a wonderful program we've got going on here, and I'm glad that it's getting a lot of attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Steven.
Stephen Christian. I am a current staff member here at Reynolds Community College, primarily at our Henrico location at Parham Road campus. And I'm also a student here under the STEM program. I was a previous student at Liberty University. I graduated with a sport management degree. So I graduated from Liberty. I don't want to sound too old, but a little over 10 years ago. So I graduated from there. So I've been in the entertainment sector for our sports and entertainment over the couple of years after I finished school. When the pandemic hit, I actually started at Reynolds when the pandemic was going on. So I've been here at Reynolds for almost 2 years. I was previously at Germanna Community College also, at Richard Bland College of William and Mary also. But being here at Reynolds, like Rachel said before, kind of dragged my feet for a bit, with that sport management degree. Move forward. I'm looking towards getting an information systems associate degree. I just actually completed my first CSC in network fundamentals this semester. This fall, I'll be actually finishing up my cloud computing CSC also. So I'm moving
What's
forward.
CSC for us?
Those are career study certificates.
So it's a certificate, okay.
Yes,
great,
sir.
great.
So moving forward with that, I'm looking to actually attend the University of Richmond or Old Dominion University sometime next year. Just continuing that educational basis. So I've been in the educational field for the past 7 years. So, seeing the students excel, left and right, with Omar over here giving his structure of how, he manages. I think it's time for a different take on it. So a career path. I've had the best assistants here. Dean Burton, who's sitting over there for our STEM department. He actually wanted me to attend this. So just moving forward, this is a great opportunity for a lot of students from myself, having a bachelor's degree, moving forward, looking to, change that career path. So that's what I'm looking to do. And I'm on fire by IT. I love it. So, without it, who knows where we'd be. So, just moving forward, just to, switch it up a little bit and get into something that I can see myself, being in the next few years of my life.
Great. Thank you.
Wow, that's great.
Good to meet you, Stephen.
Nice to meet you also.
That's big stuff. Hi, everyone. My name is Garrick Williams. So before the pandemic actually started, I was in ODU, Old Dominion University, studying mechanical engineering. Came home, I realized I wasn't really good at math. So I came back wanting to help people in a different way. And rather than sit around, just accrue more debt.
Right.
Came home, started working as a clinical medical assistant. And then I got introduced to the Vcu Pathways program. From there, I got to work in the hospital as a radiology transportation technologist. And now I went through CCWA and acquired my medical assistant certification. And now I am pretty much pondering between a career in physician's assistant or physical therapy.
But I see from your badge, you're a VCU employee still, right?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. And I currently work at the VCU dermatology as a medical assistant there.
That's great.
Superb. Excellent.
Great. Hi, Dana.
Hi, I'm Dana Newcomer. I am the Acting Director of Sector Strategies and Workforce Credentials for the Community College Workforce Alliance.
Great.
Like you, I was, in my prior career, I was a CTE educator as well, in the K-12 world. But now, together with Natalie Meredith, she's the AVP of Workforce, we lead the sector teams and programs who are -- in the state for fast forward enrollments. And we serve students who may not be on a may not be on a degree track and are looking to enter the workforce directly from some type of short-term training,
Great.
like credentials
Yeah.
and professional development.
That's great. So your role is to help them be connected so that they can find the program that's right for them. And you're connected to the workforce partners out there?
Yes.
And you were a former CTE teacher? Who better than you to do that job, right?
Dana, do you have students who want to do the short-term programs who have financial challenges, and you help them kind of negotiate that?
Yes, we do. In fact, about 40% of our students have need-based or are in need of financial assistance, and so we do serve those.
And as of right now, they can't get Pell Grant for short-term.
No, they cannot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what our Jobs Act is
Yeah.
trying to remedy, so.
Yes.
Good. Good. I'm very interested in the perspective of the students, but also the infrastructure that's needed to make sure this is replicable, right? Because as you all know, as much as we, in our minds can think of a pathway, you go to a high school that has a good CTE program, and then there's a local community college that has a really good program that's connected to the workforce or to a four-year degree. We need those dots connected. It's not natural. It's not how our high schools are designed. And in many cases, community colleges have great programming, but there may not be the connection to some of those students that at the right time who are not sure what to do and are just kind of going through the motions. So that's why I'm very interested in positions like yours to say, what does that look like and how can we connect? This was helpful, and I want to peer in a little bit more. Rachel, I heard you say something, and both Stephen and Garrick said it too. Why did you choose the major? My staff is they've heard the story over and over of someone named Ruth that I met in Michigan who during the pandemic ended up being sick, ended up being in the hospital, and she had an epiphany saying, you know what, I want to serve people after this. When I'm out of here, I want to serve people. She went back and got she went to the local community college and got her associate's degree and is now working toward becoming a nurse based on that experience. The pandemic gives us an opportunity to widen our net and have people who maybe didn't think about going to school an opportunity to do that. Talk to me a little bit more about that, Rachel. And then I saw some changes in career paths over here. I'd love to hear a little bit more about why, what triggered it and why Reynolds. I'll start with you, Rachel.
Well, to start, my mom is a nurse. Okay. So growing up, it was always in the back of my head that that's something I wanted to do. But again, having to take the time and figure out how I'm going to go to school, how I'm going to pay for school, it was the perfect opportunity because it's definitely a foot in the door to the medical world. There are so many places that any of us that take this course can go from here. We can specialize, we can do different departments, different worlds. My eventual goal is, because now that I am affiliated with VCU, after a certain amount of time, they pay you to go further.
Oh.
So my next goal is, when I reach that time, I'm going to be applying to become an RN.
And they're going to help
take it
pay
from
for
there.
that?
Yeah. And it, yeah,
That's like, those are some of the best kept secrets when people are thinking about higher ed.
yeah. So this program opened the door to unlimited pathways that I can take, and it's all based on what interests me the most and where I can help people the most.
Rachel, is your mom still alive?
Yes, she is.
Is she really excited about what you're doing?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
That's great. I love it. That's great to hear that. So not only are you following your passion, but you're doing so without being tethered to debt for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great. That's great. How about over here? Anybody else, or Omar, or?
Well, I just want to say and talk about the importance of community college. Not only, just statewide. Community college is usually the start point for a lot of first generation students such as myself and international students such as myself. So there's a general stigma or preconceived idea that community college education is not as good as a four-year institution, and that's not right. A lot of people start in community college and they continue their path once they know that that's the career choice that they chose. In my case, I went to healthcare since I was 8 years old. I went to the EMT program, I loved it. I then further into the paramedic program, and I loved it. And that just confirmed the fact that healthcare is for me. And that's my situation, that's my experience. And I'm pretty sure it's the experience of a lot of other students who start in community college as their first institution for higher education.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think we have a collective responsibility to change that narrative. And that's why I'm very adamant that we need to start in high schools to make sure that these options are available. I bet you a lot of four-year institution graduates with over $100,000 in debt would love to hear how Rachel is doing it without having to cumber so much debt. So we have a responsibility to talk about the economic benefit, not only for the community, but for the student. Rachel can probably buy a house quicker than some of these students who are tethered in debt. So I guess you're absolutely right, and it's something that I'm glad you brought up, because that is something that we have to shift. These programs, I mean, look at the state-of-the-art technology that's being used here. Students here are going to get great programming and are going to have a leg up on employment because of the connections that exist here. Great. Thanks, Omar. Others, anyone else want to share on that?
Secretary Cardona, one thing I'll offer is that a consistent theme across these students and across our students generally is it took me some time. I wasn't sure if college was right for me. I couldn't give 2 years for the associate's degree out of the gate. And so for us to have the ability to offer them milestone successes that get them entryway into the workforce with improved wages, and oftentimes with community partners who can then support
Take
the
it on,
ongoing
yeah.
education. But it's those steps, sometimes those sub-degree steps, where we can really introduce the students, spark that passion, see the value, and improve the wage outcomes along the way. So we're really focused then on, and I think these folks are just great evidence of taking that first step of a clinical medical assistant, working towards the, or EMS, or CSC in cloud computing, and then continuing to build and sometimes even go on for that bachelor's degree. But that successful start is made by a manageable kind of
Right.
first step.
And we were talking to Senator Ann and myself, we're talking before about, for so many students, it's the confidence too. Oh, I could do this, right? So you get in the door, you go into an 8-week program. The optometry program was a good example of that. And then you say, you know what, I'm gonna stay for the 2-year, and then I can continue. And you build that confidence that's needed, that for so many of our first-gen students in particular, may feel like this is not for me, this is for someone else. So I agree with you, and I think that's another aspect of what Reynolds does, but what community colleges do best. Thanks. Before I go to the other questions that I have, because I want to leave with notes on how to make things better. Anyone else want to share kind of how their pathway took a detour and Reynolds helped fill that interest that you had?
So my beginnings, my beginnings at Liberty University as a sport management major at Vcu University, graduating high school, it was a transition that most high school students have no idea what's going to happen next. You have a lot of parents who are, right behind the students. They're trying to figure out things on their way also. What role I serve here at Reynolds, I work in enrollment services and advising services. I also work under the Dean of Advising Services. May seem like a lot of hats, but at the end of the day, what we do provide for our students here, we help students learn from the ground up or build from the ground up, and that's what I look at community colleges as. As Omar was speaking before about 4U universities saying, sometimes folks do look at it as, overlooking the community college aspect, because community colleges, they don't get the rep that they should, because a lot of people belittle it from a financial point of view, from an experience point of view, athletics. You have a lot of things to incorporate in that sense. What they did for me, graduating from Liberty University, I knew that was not my last stop, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. But in the back of my mind, IT was always there. You have some folks that graduate with a 4-year university degree, and they say, I should have majored in this, I should have majored in that. Why didn't I think of that when I had the time? When the pandemic came and that changed, it shifted the focus of how we think, how we act, how our jobs are, how our children get childcare, all that fun stuff that come with the changes that we had to accept. I have a 6-year-old son, so it was going to be a little tough for me to figure out, hey, if I want to transfer my bachelor's degree to a master's degree level to University of Richmond, Old Dominion University, what will I have to do? Well, being here at Reynolds, being a staff member, working in advising services, working with the students that I see every single day, it's kind of like I'm following their pathway now. And it's kind of funny how things switched up after the past couple of years. I'm a 4-year university graduate from Liberty University. Now I'm coming back to school to start out at a community college level with these great students. We have a work study student who's graduating from Reynolds going to the University of Virginia. He was just accepted on Friday, and I just look at that as incredible. You have a lot of students out here in high school saying, I don't want to go to community college. They don't serve much purpose for me. Why not? You save so much money, you build academically, and you can still follow your dreams no matter what. I'm graduating I got my first CSC, my career study certificate, this spring. I never, in the years that I've been alive, I never even would have thought this. If COVID did not happen, who knows what I would be doing at the moment. And I think that helped give that push, even though it was a terrible time with the casualties, the folks going through hard times, losing jobs. I think it was a great
It disrupted
time.
convention.
It did.
Yeah.
It actually
You
did.
probably would not have thought of this had it not been for that.
It did.
So as I said earlier, we need to do a better job in this country, casting a wider net, talking about how economic freedom is available if you go into a program, talking about how you don't have to commit to a 4-year program to determine if you really want to do something for the rest of your life. And then reminding folks that it's never too late to go back and follow your passion. It's never too late.
Correct.
Like Ruth, and Ruth, I didn't mention, I think she was in her 60s. And she said, I'm going back into nursing. And the community college let her do that. So, this is an opportunity that we have. And speaking of opportunity, I know, this time is moving. I don't know how much time I have left. I think maybe 10 or 15. But I have to go back with notes on how to improve things. And this is for everyone. What's working? What needs work? What's working? What needs work? So, and I'm very interested in the colleagues here that are, whether they're partners in the community or staff members here that have a very unique role to make those connections between workforce, schools, high schools, or whatever. What do you think is working that we should replicate across the country? And Miguel, if you could go back and fix this for the whole country, we'd be on a pathway to success. Those are the two things that I want to get from you. There's no right or wrong answers here, so don't feel like you have to be. Listen, your experience is the best teacher, and that's what I want to hear from. Okay, so there's no particular order, but I am a 4th grade teacher, so if nobody talks, I'll start pointing at people.
So I'll jump in. What's working is the partnerships. I am so excited to be engaged with the partners here at Reynolds and at Community College Workforce Alliance to be able to connect with students that otherwise may not have thought about careers at VCU Health. It's an opportunity to introduce that our health system is like a city and that we need individuals at all levels. What's not working is the lack of infrastructure because each of our organizations has historically been built up to focus on our core missions.
Sure.
And now what we are having to do is build the bridges and the infrastructure between our organizations. I'm so excited that I have with us our Director of Workforce Development, Harrison Hayes, who's here today. He's been with us over 4 years, and he started out with a pipeline program at VCU, trying to recruit students out of high school into our 4-year programs. He came to work for us when we said, wait a second, there are a lot of high school students who aren't interested or don't have the means right now to go to a 4-year institution, but still are interested in a career somewhere in a healthcare environment. And he worked with community partners, local high schools, technical centers, CCWA, and Reynolds to start engaging with students and talking about career opportunities, and then connecting with our human resources department to say, and what benefits can we offer once people come to work for us? As Rachel mentioned, our educational assistance benefits. But who knew? And unless we have the connectors and build that intentional infrastructure, it's very difficult for people to even know what the opportunities are.
Gotcha. He's a bridge builder then, right? So we need more of that. But you're right. I visited like 32 states in the last year, and I've seen pockets of excellence. And you said, we go into this job with the goal of our mission. We talk a lot about intentional collaboration during the pandemic. Like we had to connect with epidemiologists in ways that we never did in the past. So I want there to be the same level of urgency around this, that there's in 50 states, and that we have models where this is the vision, and then the companies come together, and this drives the organizational design of hospitals, of high school districts, of K-12 districts, of colleges, so that this is part of the core work. Because as you said, there's so many benefits that people don't even know about. So I love that, the infrastructure piece of it. because what you said, what needs work, is also what you said is good, the partnerships. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Others?
I think another benefit is that with our short-term training, with our credentials, we're actually able to crosswalk those credentials into actual credits on the credit side. So students aren't necessarily coming at zero, with 0 credits to an associate's degree program. And from there, they can, from medical assistant, they can go to LPN, they can go to RN, and have some credits they've brought with them.
That's fantastic. So that crosswalk that you're talking about, I think that was another issue that I heard from college students. The transferability sometimes becomes an obstacle, and that's a man-made obstacle.
Yeah.
There's no reason that obstacle should exist. You're saying the crosswalk between credentials to credit-bearing programs and just pathways. So I would think you're saying that works here, and it needs to work everywhere else.
Yes.
Okay.
So does it, so when Rachel goes from her CMA work to nursing, is she gonna be able to take a lot of those credits with her?
She will be able to use her program and articulate it to like some of the credits in the nursing program. Yes, if it's here at Reynolds or at
Yes,
John
we have
Tyler.
got this kind of working pretty well
Yep.
here.
Yeah. And it's helpful to have partners like Cheryl at the table when the programs are being developed.
Right.
So that
Right.
you get what you want at the end of the day too, as the employer.
Yes.
Good.
So I'm sorry.
He's like, I've got some
Did you
credits.
Well, one thing I see has worked out for me was the ability to, that VCU gave me, starting out as a transportation for patients in the hospital. I got connected with Pathways, and then because at first I didn't really see myself as a healthcare worker, but walking around the hospital, seeing a lot of different nurses, doctors, technologists, you name it, I thought, okay, maybe I could help people out in this aspect, and then got reconnected with CCWA to get my certification in medical assisting. Now that pushed me to really think, okay, maybe healthcare would work instead of engineering.
So the job helped you open your eyes to what you can be doing.
Yes,
And it created the pathway.
exactly.
That's great.
Exactly.
Thank you. Dana?
Many of our students are non-traditional, so we're looking at late 30s is the age of many of our students. We're looking at single mothers, students that have been incarcerated, and there's many barriers that our students have. So that's a focus that we have had, that we've been working on, being able to remove those barriers, and we've been successful at that. We have a high percentage of minorities that go through our programs, which is a major success. Now, is there room for growth? Yes, but with how non-traditional our students are and the barriers that they have, there has been success.
That's a good point. Thank you for sharing that, Dana. And when you say non-traditional students, it's about time in this country that higher education institutions recognize that they have to do more to connect to what we call non-traditional students, because the higher education system right now is haves and have-nots. And unless we're honest about that and fix that, we don't have a fighting chance. So what I'm hearing from you is there's an investment here to address some of those barriers, whether it's childcare needs or giving folks who weren't planning on going to college an opportunity, an on-ramp, right? I was really proud of a visit that I was able to do with the First Lady discussing basic needs grants. There was like $200 million available for colleges to provide childcare. Food insecurity is rampant. When you're working, I've heard, Shelby, you told me you have 3 jobs. Like when folks are working, some of these other basic needs need to be addressed. I'm pleased that the American Rescue Plan was used to defray college costs for students that were like, during the pandemic, I took a hit with my job. Colleges use the American Rescue Plan funds to keep those students whole so they can finish their degree. So I hear you about removing those barriers. Do you think that that's something that we should be doubling down on?
Yes.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit more about that. What could we do differently? What could we do better at the federal level to make sure that this is not just a pandemic thing?
I know partnering with many of the community organizations are important, so being able to support them as well as us so that we can have those stronger connections, creating those connections.
Okay, so those strong connections, kind of like what Shelby was saying.
Can I add
Please,
one to her? I want to add one to Dana's. Dana said one of the challenges that some of her non-traditional students have is that they were incarcerated. So to brag about something else in the American Rescue
Yeah,
Plan, but
yeah.
that is not yet known as much as it should be. The Pell Grant program used to be accessible in prisons and jails to folks who were incarcerated, and Congress cut that out about 25 years ago, but we put it back last year. So now Pell can be used, folks who are incarcerated, to get the skills they need when they're out. But I was in Roanoke recently, and I was doing a roundtable like this, and none of the area sheriffs were aware of it. And the local community college, Virginia Western, wasn't yet aware of it, because they could put an educator in the Roanoke County Jail, and the students could, and the school could get some compensation through Pell to teach the classes, but they weren't yet aware of it. So that was a really good move we
Glad you
made in
mentioned that.
Pell. And I know you did a second chance meeting with
Yeah.
a lot of folks recently.
Yep.
So we've done something good. We just have to get the word out, and then, more programs can start to offer these courses to folks. Because the best time for people who are formerly incarcerated to get jobs is when the unemployment rate's low. Because then employers are like, well, we got to hire some folks, and they start to look around, including being willing to hire people that maybe 10 years ago they weren't. So I think the implementation of Pell in prisons and jails is like a really important thing.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Great connection there. Any, in the short time we have left, and thank you, Dana, for that feedback. Anyone else want to share either what works or what needs work briefly before we close this out?
I think
Amy?
just jumping off of what Dana had said, we have a workforce credential grant that pays 2/3 of tuition for students here in Virginia. It's funded through the General Assembly. We're fortunate in Virginia to have that. It's not a federal or national initiative, so Pell Grant eligibility definitely would be beneficial as well.
Thank you.
Are there other, can I tag along to your question, are there other funding needs that either the American Rescue Plan has helped with on a short-term basis, or that are gaps that we still have, that we have folks here who can help think about federal funding, childcare, or tuition costs, or paying the costs of the credential tests, or others? What are the gaps that made it hard for the students to finish financially, or?
Right.
One of the things that has been present, but I think COVID really shone a spotlight on, is the need for technology. So we were able to offer loan laptops out to students, and without that, they simply cannot continue their courses. Even if they're here, they have the tech. You can't get an education in 2022 without, access to this type of technology. And so filling those gaps for students, getting more online resources in the texts. Childcare is a biggie. Transportation's a big one. We have a significant amount of our students who have food and housing insecurity on a regular basis. And so we serve students who aren't sure where their next meal is going to come. And those same students sometimes have children. And so we have to really look holistically at supporting our students, because it's really hard to excel academically when you're hungry.
Of course.
And so one thing that we have implemented at Reynolds is what we call single stop, where students can come in and in a matter of minutes be assessed to find out if they might be eligible for SNAP or benefits or WIC benefits.
Good.
Or WIC. So to take that real holistic approach, I think, to circle back to what Cheryl was saying, that one of the ways that we have provided resources to students is by bringing them in and then deploying the teams to say, where could we get this scholarship for this, that, and we try to kind of scrap it together to get the student through. To have an infrastructure, a funding infrastructure that would allow us to say to students, come in because we can support you, and here's the efficient ways that we can move you through the process. One thing that we have done, and I think is tried to minimize how many times we ask students to tell us that they have need. Because it is demoralizing when you go to one desk and then the next and then the next, you have to keep saying, I'm poor, I'm poor, I'm poor. To be able to get that infrastructure and then wrap around the students is huge.
We supported, the president put forward college completion in each of the proposals, and we recognize that we have to do more to do what you're doing here across the country, which is meet students where they are, be unapologetic about the important role that you have as a college to meet them where they are, and help remove obstacles because there's so much talent there, there's so much potential there. And instead of focusing on that, removing those barriers so they can continue to get their education and go contribute meaningfully into the workforce and into their community. And so thank you for bringing that up, Dr. Dwyer. So unfortunately, our time, I do have homework here, and I appreciate that. I do want you to know that your stories matter. Your stories represent what we're trying to, the American dream, right? And sometimes the American dream means that there's an epiphany and we want to change courses, or we're gonna find that, you know what, I did this and my passion is here, and I love that. And we have to make sure that our institutions of higher education are malleable, that they meet the students where they are, and that they address all the needs of the students so that they can flourish and thrive. I want to thank the senator for the invitation. It's always great when I have a chance to sit with him and listen and pick his brain. And, you have a champion here. And I could tell the love that you have for Richmond just by walking with you here. I appreciate the invitation. Great to see you again, Ann. And before I close it out, I want to give the senator an opportunity to say some closing remarks.
Well, what I want to do is I want to just tell a quick story that will hopefully prompt my wife to say something. Because Ann might be the only person in the room who really knew J. Sergeant Reynolds very, very well. Ann's dad was governor from 1970 to 74, and J. Sergeant Reynolds was a 31-year-old lieutenant governor. And within about a year and a half after he took office, he was diagnosed with brain cancer. And he died at about age 32, right about the time this university was started. Truly an amazing guy. He was from one of the wealthiest families in Virginia, the Reynolds family, but he had a real heart for the underdog, and that's what people think about him. And honey, as I was looking at the training of these medical professionals and the mock-ups of the ORs, I was just thinking, man, he would be really, really proud of this.
He died of cancer in his young 30s, as Tim says, certainly after he assumed office as lieutenant governor. But he really was a Kennedy-esque kind of inspirational person, and we're so thrilled that Reynolds Community College carries on his great name.
Yeah, that's powerful. I appreciate you sharing that because he would be proud of the work that's happening here. And across the country, I want to make sure that the experiences that you're having are available for Americans in every corner of our country. They deserve that. And if we're not bold, if we're not willing to take the lessons that we see happening here and elevate that and what I call systematize it or create infrastructure around it, then it's only going to be pockets of excellence. And America is the greatest country in the world. Imagine if everyone had access, how much greater we can be, right? And that's with him fighting on the Hill and me as your secretary. We're going to do everything we can to not only do our homework, but to make sure that not only child, every adult has access to higher education. Every non-traditional becomes just as eligible for the opportunities that education provides. As a first-generation college student myself, I recognize the potential that's there, that's going untapped. We need to do better, and we will. And taking lessons from you all will help me not only be motivated to do it, but have the technical strategies to make sure that we get it done. Thank you for your time. This was really valuable to me. Like I said, when we go back to DC now, we're gonna take this and try to turn it into a push to make sure that it's happening across the country. I really appreciate all your time, and I wish you nothing but success.
How about a round of applause for our visitor?